It is preview season here on Armchair Analysis, and today we're talking all about the SMU Mustangs. Can they repeat last year's playoff appearance, last year's ACC championship game appearance, and even their 8-0 regular season in the ACC play? We'll cover all the changes to this team, what they're going to look like in 2025, and give you a full 12-game schedule prediction, as always, here on today's episode. Thank you all for tuning in. First off, been awesome in the last few weeks, getting all the support, all the different comments, community kind of building itself here. And I ask you, if you're new around here, you leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. We're trying to hit 200 subscribers by week 0, which is 21 days away, 3 weeks away from today. I think we can get there. We've been doing great recently, and we're sitting here just over 150, so I think we can get the job done. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and without all that being said, let's go ahead and preview this SMU team. And this is a team last year that was 11-3, 8-0 in ACC play, and again went to Charlotte, played for the ACC title, lost by a possession to Clemson, and ultimately went to the college football playoff and kind of ran out of Happy Valley by Penn State. But what do you expect? I mean, that's SMU is jumping from the G5 to the Power 4, and they were competitive last year, especially in ACC play. They also had a lighter schedule, which is not a backhanded comment. I mean, that's just the facts. When they played, the teams they played last year included a TCU team that couldn't stop a nosebleed in the regular season. They played Florida State, who that game was expected to be really good, and they ended up dominating a 2-10 Florida State team. You look at Louisville, that was a good game that lived up to the hype. The Duke game lived up to it. Pitt, this was about the time that Eli Holstein was hurt. That kind of took away some of the magic around that matchup. And then you got Boston College, Virginia, Cal, Stanford, also on that schedule, along with Nevada, Houston Christian, and BYU, who was their lone loss in the regular season prior to that Clemson game. They are playing a much tougher schedule this year, plain and simple. They got Clemson, Miami, Louisville, Baylor, TCU, all in the regular season alone, and then on top of that, the rest of their games. It's going to be a tough way through to see what they can manage as a team. This team last year averaged 36.5 points per game, 8th in college football. 22.1 points per game allowed, that was 32nd, and negative 0.3 turnover margin, which was 88th in the sport. Taking a look real quick, because I made a small mistake in the fact that I did not look up this number beforehand. They ended up with the 32nd ranked recruiting class in 2025, and the, I believe, 42nd ranked transfer portal class with 20 commitments out of it. But they did really shore up a lot, I think, in that regard and in what they were able to do with the portal. Rhett Lashley, of course, returns this year as a head coach. He's been really a lot better than I think a lot of people expected him to be or gave him credit to potentially be. Currently going into year 4, he's 29-12 as a head coach at SMU. I think that's a lot better than anybody expected he would be. You go into this year with Casey Woods as your offensive coordinator, Scott Simons as your defensive coordinator. This team returned 6 starters on offense, and I'm going to say 3 on defense. The source I have says 2. I'm saying 3 because I believe that Maud Moses was also a starter last year, or at least played starter type of minutes. So I am going to count. I'm going to make that 3. I'm making a personal adjustment to that. When you look at the offense, it's kind of led by Kevin Jennings, and they are really, really excited for him to get a full season. But the problem is he's got a full season under his belt now as a starter. He took over, of course, in that BYU game, and it really never looked back from BYU forward. And it worked out last year. They had a really good team that put a lot of good stuff together. And this year, it's going to fall a little bit more on the arm of Kevin Jennings. Can he facilitate the football the way it needs to be in order to keep this offense as dynamic as they were last year? Last year, they did a lot of their damage on the ground, utilizing Jennings' legs. Will they be able to push that forward a little bit differently in 2025? Is certainly a question to be asked, because again, it's going to be difficult to replace Rashard Smith, but they're trying. Derek McFall is their projected starter, but they got Chris Johnson Jr. transferred in from Miami, and TJ Harden transfers from UCLA. All three of these guys, I think, are going to get playing time. I don't think anybody's going to take over as a lead running back. I'd be surprised if that does happen. The wide receiver, we got Romello Brenton returning to the team in 2025. Jordan Hudson. Ymir Nice comes over from James Madison, and then they have 4 freshman wide receivers that I am interested to see how they plug and play into the offense. They're all expected to get, or 2 to 3 of them are expected to get some playing time this year. We'll see how that plays out. I didn't want to point a specific player out because I don't know really who kind of is favored at the moment, but I did want to point out that they do have a handful of freshmen coming into the position to maybe get on the field this year. RJ Maryland returns. He's another one of those returning starters. One of 3. Yeah, one of 3. They also put Matthew Hibner as a starter as well on there. Did the skill positions anyways. And then they got 3 returning starters on the offensive line. They bring in 2 transfers on the offensive line as well. Keeping the left side consistent from last year with Savion Byrd and Logan Parr going to be at left tackle and left guard respectively here in 2025. I'm excited for this offensive line. I think that's a position of interest in 2025. How much help can they be to this offense, to Kevin Jennings, especially in passing situations? Look at the defense again. I'm going to say 3 returning starters. You can say 2 if you want, but Deuce Harmon, Isaiah Nokobia, and Ahmad Moses. When you look at 8 of 11 players from 2024 return and going to be projected starters this year, I think that's a really big deal. Good continuity. 4.6 yards per play allowed in 2024, which was 8th in college football. I think that's a really impressive number to keep an eye on this year and see if they can maintain or if something kind of falls a little short. They did go to the portal and they bring in Jeffrey Emba coming over from Purdue. Terry Webb comes over from Texas State. Both those guys defensive tackles. They wanted to shore up the center of the defensive line, and I think they did a pretty solid job of that. They've also bring in Zakai Barker of East Carolina to step in at linebacker as well. Bringing back Isaiah Nkobi again, 100 tackles last year. He also led the team with Ahmad Moses and interceptions with 3, at least those returning. Cameron Robertson, who leads the team in tackles for loss and sacks returning with 7 tackles for loss, 4 sacks from last year. And then multiple players forced 1 fumble. They forced 27 turnover opportunities as a whole. If you're new around here, turnover opportunities is interceptions and forced fumbles, not interceptions and fumble recoveries. Otherwise, I just say turnovers. I like that number a little more indicative of a little more indicative of how they can disrupt an offense, I think is kind of the way I like to put it. Still trying to find a better way to explain why I like that more, but it is something that I think is a little bit more telling because you look at like bounce a ball on fumbles specifically, depends on who's around, who can get to the ball, the fight at the bottom of the pile. Whereas if you're just forcing fumbles and you're creating that ball to be up for grabs, essentially, I think it shows a little bit more of that opportunistic mindset of the defense. Some names to watch here. I got Chris Johnson Jr. I'm really interested to see how he gets imported into this offense. He only has 178 all-purpose yards in his career with Miami. At least, or sorry, I shouldn't say all-purpose yards. Rushing and receiving. It's offensive yardage. He has been a punt returner over the course of his career. We will see if he plays a little bit more and ends up being able to put that together. I expect him to play a good amount, and I expect him to be kind of, I don't know if I want to say a big play threat, but I expect him to be a guy who can step in and maybe become that RB1 in this offense if there would be one. The secondary is just a place, just plain and simple, a secondary. I think it's going to be the heart of the defense. It's going to be led by 2 of the best safeties in college football, Ahmad Moses and Isaiah Nokobia. 2 names that if you don't know them, you should learn them. They are, 6 interceptions between the 2 of them. Both of them had 3 each. 100 tackles from Nokobia. They are all around the field. They're making plays. They are constantly around the football. those are two guys that I think are going to lead this defense and maybe help them continue at the rate that they played last year, which was a really solid team. Looking at the schedule again, I've already kind of hinted to it, but it is not necessarily the easiest thing, especially compared to last year's schedule. You got road trips to TCU, a road trip, a random one to Missouri State with their first, I believe, their first Power 5 opponent of the season. You get a road trip to Clemson, Wake Forest, Boston College, and Cal in conference play. And then you also have Baylor, Syracuse, Miami at home, Louisville at home. Like, this is not necessarily an easy schedule by any means. And they're going to have to find their way through it because, again, everybody that I'm mentioning has improved to a point where I think SMU isn't just going to sit at 11-1 at the end of the season. I'm not saying they're going to be bad. I don't really think there's going to be a huge drop-off. I just think that the difference is going to be the schedule that they face. Remember that all records are not made the same. 11-1 last year for SMU was what they played against their schedule. But this year, if they played this schedule last year, they probably still end up going. I mean, they beat Louisville. They lost to Clemson once. They beat TCU, and they beat Baylor. Or they didn't play Baylor. They also didn't play Syracuse. So, hard to say what that record truly would have been. And again, forgive me because they did beat Louisville and TCU. But the rest of the games, as mentioned. With that said, their over-unders at 8.5. Their odds to win the conference are plus 900, and their odds to win a national championship are plus 10,000. Let's go ahead and predict it with a win, starting off with East Texas A&M. They'll get the job done in week 1. They'll face Baylor in week 2, and I think they're just going to be outmatched. Sawyer Robertson is, I think, the best quarterback in the Big 12. I think he's the best quarterback in the state of Texas, or one of them. And they play both of them on this schedule. The top two that I would put anyways. They're gonna fall to Baylor, but they'll get a win at Missouri State before they lose an Amon G. Carter to TCU. TCU is going to want to bounce back after giving up 66 last year. And again, Josh Hoover, another one of the best quarterbacks in the state of Texas and best quarterbacks in the Big 12 without question. You look at Syracuse, they're in week number 6, I think that's going to be. And they're going to get the win there. They'll beat Stanford as well to be 4-2 coming out of the first half of the season. They'll come out of there with a road trip to Clemson. They're gonna lose that game. I think Clemson, again, I'm talking about them as like a number 1 team in the country right now. They're one of my favorite teams, one of my early favorites in my playoff picks. Like, and those are coming up in a couple weeks. I think Clemson is certainly going to be able to take care of business in this one. You get a win over Wake Forest, and then you'll come back home, face Miami, where I think they'll lose to the Hurricanes. I just think that Carson Beck's going to be better about taking care of the football. How he heals from the injury is certainly going to be part of how this Miami offense plays. But I think Miami's going to be just fine by the time November rolls around. They'll get the win. A win over Boston College on the road. I changed this one from earlier. I picked Boston College to win this game in Chestnut Hill. And certainly not something I'm opposed to, because remember, Boston College beat SMU in the November-December timeframe a couple years ago in a bowl game leading into SMU. I was actually in 2023 bowl season. Boston College could certainly do that again, especially as cold as it'll get in November up there. It's not impossible. I'm not predicting it, though. I changed my mind. SMU to beat Boston College. They'll lose to Louisville at home and then get a win to close the season out against Cal, going 7-5, 5-3 in ACC play, which puts them still in contention, especially if they turn one of those ACC results around, whether that's Miami or Louisville. Puts them certainly in contention at 8-4. But I just think that this is too tough. That this Baylor and TCU are two really good teams, two teams I like for the playoff, two teams I like in the Big 12. I mean, this is no spoilers, but this is a matchup in consideration in the Big 12 championship for me. So you get 2 of the best teams there, and then you get what are projected maybe as the top 3 of the top 4 teams, 3 of the top 5 in the conference in Clemson, Miami, and Louisville. It's certainly no wonder why this is a tougher schedule. I'm taking the under on 8.5. I think that they're probably going to get to 8, but I could see 9. but I'm going to say the 8 is where I'm going to put it, with 9 as a ceiling. Floor, I think, is 7 and 5. I think that they will sit somewhere between 7 and 9. But with that said, let me know what you guys think. If you're an SMU fan, I did that again. If you're an SMU fan, let me know what you think of the video. If you're not an SMU fan, if you're just a college football fan, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's anything I missed. Of course, as somebody who does 130 or covers 136 teams, it is possible to miss some information. It happens. A source that I use had some information wrong about Ole Miss. Some very obvious information too that I just completely brain farted on and missed. So, like, things happen. Things get missed. Players' names get missed that should be mentioned or talked about. Just let me know down in the comments. Let me know what I may have missed. Let me know what you guys think of this SMU team. And make sure, you leave a like. Subscribe if you're new. Comment down below. Subscribing helps because we're trying to get to 200 again by the time we hit week 0. That's 3 weeks from today. I think we can get the job done, especially the way we've been growing over the last few months. So I thank everybody for tuning in. Hope you'll have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Arizona State is on deck. The Big 12 champions, the defending Big 12 champions, on deck here on Armchair Analysis. We'll see you guys tomorrow with the Sun Devils.